and play on 2nd and 10. That's his youth right there.
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
Well, today I'll be giving my Week 10 college football rankings. And with the first college football playoff rankings coming out tonight, I'm going to start mainly doing my rankings going by how tough the team's schedules have been. But I've still got Ohio State at number one. Now, they played a terrible Penn State team, but they blew them out like you would expect them to do at 38-14. And I've still got Indiana at two. They played a terrible Maryland team, but they destroyed them at 55-10, like you would expect them to do. Ohio State and Indiana have been the two most dominant teams in the country this season. And Texas A&M has been the third most dominant team, which is why I've still got them at number three. But they didn't play this week. And Alabama, who I've got at four, didn't play either. So that's why I didn't change them. But Georgia, I've still got it at number five because even though they did have a close win against not a very good Florida team, that is a big rivalry game. And Florida does have a good roster, they just don't have a coach. And I've still got BYU at six. BYU didn't play, but this week BYU is going to play the best team they've played all year, Texas Tech. And if BYU can win that game, they're going to move up in my rankings. And got Ole Miss up to number seven. Now, not because of how they played. They played okay, but it's not like beating South Carolina by 16 was a big win. It's because Georgia Tech lost. But I've got Ole Miss ahead of Texas Tech, who I've got at eight, because Ole Miss plays a much tougher conference than Texas Tech does. And the Ole Miss win over Oklahoma, I would say, is just as good as Texas Tech's best win of the season against Utah. And I moved Virginia up to nine, and Louisville up to 10, and Oregon down to 11. Not because of how Virginia and Louisville played this week, though. They both played okay. Virginia beat California 31-21, but California, is a bad team, and Louisville beat Virginia Tech 28-16, and Virginia Tech is a bad team. It's because Virginia does have a win over Louisville, and Louisville has a win over Miami. And Oregon, even though I think they would beat both Virginia and Louisville, they don't have a win yet over a team that's currently ranked. And I moved Georgia Tech down to 12. I do think Oregon would beat Georgia at Tech, and Georgia Tech doesn't have a win either over a team that's currently ranked, and they just lost by double digits to not a very good NC State team. And I've got Texas at 13, ahead of Oklahoma at 14, and Vanderbilt at 15, because Texas beating Oklahoma and Vanderbilt is the tiebreaker with that, with them all being at 7 and at 2. But even though Oklahoma and Vanderbilt haven't played, Oklahoma has two pretty good wins against Michigan and Tennessee, and Vanderbilt's best win is against Missouri. And if Oklahoma and Vanderbilt were to play, I would pick Oklahoma. But I have Texas, Oklahoma, and Vanderbilt all ahead of Utah, who I've got at 16, because the SEC is now a much better conference than the Big 12 is, and Utah does have two pretty good wins against Arizona State and Cincinnati, but they still don't have what you would consider to be a huge win. Yeah, and they've lost to the two best teams they've played, Texas Tech and BYU. And 17 through 20 is easy. I have Miami ahead of Notre Dame at 17 and Notre Dame at 18 because Miami beat Notre Dame, and I've got USC below Notre Dame at 19 because Notre Dame beat USC, and then USC ahead of Michigan, who I've got at 20 because USC beat Michigan, and they all have two losses. But Miami's only good win so far is against Notre Dame, and Notre Dame's only good win so far is against USC. And Michigan, they didn't have a very good performance against Purdue, who's the worst team in the Big Ten last week, only winning 21 to 16. But Justice Haynes was out in that game, and he kind of carries Michigan's offense. And Michigan does have two decent wins against Washington and Nebraska, which is enough for me to put them ahead of Houston, who I've got at 21. But USC just beat Nebraska, so that is a decent win for them. Also, because Nebraska is a decent team, they won 21 to 17, and that is not a score that you would expect to see in a game that Lincoln Riley's coaching in, though. But Houston, I left them ahead of TCU, who I've got at 22, because even though Houston is coming off of a terrible loss to West Virginia, Houston did beat Arizona State. That's their best win so far, and Arizona State beat TCU, and TCU though their win that they got early in the season over SMU is looking a lot better now than it did a week ago. But Arizona State, is a three-loss team, so it's not like beating them is a huge win at this point for Houston. But TCU, they didn't play this week. But I've got Washington at 23. They didn't play, but their best win against Illinois is a decent win. Illinois is a decent team that's 6-3 with a win over USC. But I have Missouri down now to 24, even though they didn't play. It's because they don't have any ranked wins yet. Now, if Missouri can somehow beat Texas A&M this week, they'll be moving way up in my rankings. But I moved Cincinnati down to 25 because they've shown, I think, against Utah that while they are a lot better than they've been the last few years, they're still not a great team, and they still don't have any ranked wins yet. But that'll be it with this video. Please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.